Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Joseph Nantoma, and welcome to the Legit Immigrant Podcast. On this podcast, we're going to be talking about socio-economic and political issues affecting legal immigrants. And you heard me right, legal immigrants. For far too long, the narrative and every single politician in the United States has focused on the illegal immigrant. It's beginning to look like we came into this country, we put in the work, we pay our taxes, and nobody gives a about us. And that narrative has to change. You know, we got to get to a point where we get what we deserve. We come in here, we do every single thing that the law states that we should do, and nobody gives a about us. And that has to change this day. And that is why I am joining my voice with the people who are supporting legal immigrants. And I hope and I wish that more people will start talking about this, because the earlier we start giving ourselves the position, the earlier we start putting our voice out there, the more people are going to hear about us. When you look at the history of the United States of America, I love this country. You know, I came in here 9 years ago, came in here with less than $5,000 and built several businesses. I've helped over a dozen score people to become successful all over the country. I have traveled, I have hired, I have, put my life into the hands of so many people. I have had awards from the presidency and so on and so forth. But what seems to be missing is the fact that nobody cares about what legal immigrants do in this country. I can go on and talk about the list of people, immigrants, who have changed the United States of America. And I think it's high time we start looking into these things. Just recently, President Trump came into the office, and we see how the Democrats have used a lot of money to touch the lives of so many people who do not have nothing to do with the United States. They don't pay their taxes. They don't do shit. All they do is sit down there and just send out monies. Let me give you some of the list so you don't think I'm just making this stuff up. Like, you can't make these things up. $1.5 million to advance diversity, equity, and inclusion in Serbia. Like, I don't know what that has to do with us, okay? We have $70,000 for the production of DEI Musica in Ireland. We have $2.5 million for electric vehicles in Vietnam. I live in the United States. I cannot even afford to walk into a store and buy an electric vehicle. And somebody who doesn't pay taxes in the United States goes ahead to have monies over $2 million. I'm going to come back to this. When I came into the United States, for the first 1 year or maybe 2 years, I needed to build what they call credit in the United States. Nobody gave me a dollar. Nobody gave me any form of support, even though I was here legally. There are many issues we're going to be talking about on this podcast, and I hope I'm going to be having more people who are legit immigrants come into the studio, and we're just going to be rubbing our minds and seeing the things that we're missing out. A lot is going on. Just last week, over 50 million was given to a hotel by U.S. aid to house illegal, and I use the word illegal immigrants. When was the last time U.S. aid gave you monies to pay your rent? When was the last time they supported you saying, you know what, I think this person is doing great. Let us go out there and try and support them. Nothing comes to us as a legit immigrant that you are. When was the last time you had any government official reach out to you to, have a discussion with you and put you out there? This country was built on the back of immigrants, legit immigrants. And yet there is nothing that comes to us. We have to work day and night. I know people who are legit immigrants who work 3 jobs to put food on the table. And I think it's high time we start talking about the real issues. President Trump is doing his best to clean up the house, but we got to raise our voices. I strongly believe that the success story of the United States should be on our back. It should be on our shoulders. And it is time for we to tell our stories. It is time for the whole world to hear our voice. And I'm going to go back on this list. $47,000 for transgender opera, transgender opera in Colombia. So picture this. Every single person gathers in a room and they're all transgenders in Colombia, not in the United States. I need to break this thing down. Like everybody is transgender. Man become woman, woman become man. And they sit down and they spend $47,000 on their behalf just for them to have fun. While I know the next door person who is a legit immigrant in the country doesn't see any form of support, right? $32,000 for a transgender comic book. So 2 years ago, this is very, very interesting because I did write my own comic book. I spent about $36,000, to have like an inspirational book. Nobody supported me. So $32,000 transgender comic book in Peru. $2 million for sex changes and LGBT activism in Guatemala. $6 million to fund terrorism in Egypt. Like $6 million. $6 million goes there. Okay? And $2 million to Eco Health Alliance involved in research at the Wuhan lab in China. Who even sends monies to China? Like, China is already rich. Like, who sends money to China anyways? Just somebody who wants to waste monies. Hundreds of thousands of meals that went to Al-Qaeda, affiliated in Syria, funding to print personalized contraceptive birth control devices in developing countries. $16.8 million to support equitable outcomes in inclusion in Vietnam. $8.3 million for equity and inclusion education. Okay? $7.9 million to teach Sri Lanka journalism to avoid binary gender language. Like, they're teaching them over there how to use the words he, her, she, hey, them, and. Like, we have to spend $16.8 million for that, like, so you can know how to, like, address people properly. Like, if I was to change, I'm a man, so I can say my words or the way you can address me. You call me he, her, them. Like, we spend that kind of money to those people, right? $20 million for producing an Iraq version of Sesame Street. Remember when we were growing up? Like, they give them $20 million to produce that. Think about this, okay? And nothing comes to legit immigrants, the legal immigrants, nothing. $45 million for DEI scholarship in Buma. $2 million for Moroccan poetry classes. I don't even know what that is, okay? Like, what shit is that? Like, $200 million to fund irrigation for the Taliban poppy fields. You can't make this shit up. You get what I'm saying? We have $50 million for condoms in Gaza. $50 million. Think for a minute. You're a legit immigrant and you have a business you're running. And you walk into the bank. You're doing all the things you can do. You walk into the bank and you're denied $50,000 credit card. Because they tell you, hey, you don't have a great credit. And the same government sends $50 million to Gaza for condoms. So in other words, they're like, hey, the guys in Gaza, we don't want you to give birth to children anymore. So you know what? We want to control how you give birth and all that stuff. Probably control how many times you sleep with your wife as well. So just take this $50 million, cool money, and just, take care of yourself. We got to start talking about these things, and, we got to have people out there hear our voice. Because at the end of the day, a closed mouth does not get fed. And I think it's high time, the United States and every single politician starts paying attention to legit immigrants. Like I said, when you come into the United States, there is a process that you have to go through to become a citizen. It's not a right, it's a privilege, and you have to earn it. And we all know this. But these days, it looks like the right way to do it is just go into one of the southern borders, just stay there, cross the border, find your way to one of the sanctuary cities, and they start giving you money. Some time back, we heard about a lady who had about $20,000 on a benefit card. Like $20,000. You heard me right. $20,000 on a benefit card. They pay hotels for these people. They give them a brand new iPhone. Like when the iPhone came out, I couldn't even buy it. It was like $1,500 or maybe even a little bit more. I have to wait. And I had the 15 Pro. I had to trade in my phone to get that for a cheaper rate. They hand over these phones to these people. In Chicago, they give them free rentals up to 6 months. And I heard it's even gone up to like a year. They give them rentals, beautiful homes. They send the kids to school for free while I am paying taxes every single year. And you know what's amazing? If I don't pay taxes, the IRS will come after me. They can come after me. They can seize my stuff. They can seize my property. They can put sanctions on my business. But someone who comes in here illegally has a free pass. You know, they have a home to stay. And what's amazing these days is they don't even hold accountable. There's no form of accountability. They go out there in New York. We've heard about it. They punch people on the nose. The other day, somebody set a lady on fire in a subway. And these people are arrested and released. But if I commit a crime, I will go in for it, right? So let's go back to this list one more time. 30 million for Southern Africa HIV/AIDS program, criticized by misuse of inefficiency. So they give South African people who have AIDS that has nothing to do with anything, $30 million, okay? And it goes on and on and on. And the real question is this: when are you guys going to pay attention to us? When is our voice going to be heard? When can we sit up and say, hey, beyond citizenship, beyond just giving me the American dream, selling the American dream to us, when is my taxes going to count? What future do I hold? Okay, what future does the country hold for me? Because if we just keep coming here and we do great, it is a fact that so many immigrants who come into the United States have flying colors in schools. One of them being my country, Nigeria. Nigeria has the highest people, professionals in the entire list of immigrants who come into the United States. So we put in the work. On the top of the list, we have doctors, we have engineers, we have entrepreneurs, we have all these people who come in here and do the work. And all we get is a handshake. All we get are more taxes from the government. Take a look at Elon. Elon is an immigrant from Southern Africa. He comes in here, he puts in the work, he builds rockets and jets and tries to take everything that has to do with the United States to Mars. And yet, all we get are criticisms, right? The guys on the other side want to crucify Elon because they feel like he's doing what is not on their agenda. So I want to ask you out there, what is in for us? Is it just coming here and earning the citizenship? We work hard, 2 jobs, 3 jobs. Some of us have several businesses that we do and get out there and all for nothing. The money's sent out by all these politicians who go out there and they don't know. Like, you sit down with these politicians, they don't know anything about anything. They sit out there, they talk and talk. And, somebody said, if you want to get people to sit down in a room, just get some bunch of politicians who are going to write 50,000 pages of laws that they don't even read, and they just pass it. And in these laws, they hide several things like this that they have here. And they send it out every single year to these countries that are not deserving of it. And this is why I'm starting this podcast. If you're out there, you're an immigrant, you're a legal immigrant, and you live in the United States, it is our time to hear our voice. It's hard time we sit down and talk about the issues. Or we're just going to keep having the same narrative where the same people, illegal immigrants, keep taking everything. They go out there, they commit crimes, and they are arrested and released. But I thank President Trump because that's not going to be the case anymore. But if you're out there, you want to tell your story, you want your voice to be heard, I'm willing to fly you down out here to Miami. We're going to sit down, I'm going to house you, and we're going to talk. We're going to talk about all the stuff that is going on. And there's going to be an email right here on the screen. I want you to get on that email and send us an email, and we're going to be talking about your story. And if you want, we're going to also keep you anonymous. Okay, we're going to keep you anonymous, and nobody has to know who you are. But we're going to fly you out here, and we're going to talk about all that is going on in the United States. It is true that this country deserves all the great people, but only the great people. And I know you're great because when you came into this country, you came in the right way. You stood in the queue. You went through what you had to go through. There are so many people that for years couldn't even work because they have to get their work authorization. They had to wait for the Social Security and all the stuff they had to go through. And I think it is high time we start highlighting your stories. So give us a shout out, drop your comment, send us an inbox, send us an email, and let's talk about these things.